Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk with Tom. My name is Tom, and we're going to talk about Bendy and the Ink Machine. I know that Bendy and the Ink Machine isn't a cartoon, it's a video game, but it's a video game about a cartoon that doesn't exist, so let's just pretend that this is okay. And also Retro Nemo did a video on Cuphead not that long ago, so I can do a video on Bendy and the Ink Machine. Now, if Cuphead is a love letter to good old white glove, rubber hose animation style of the 1920s, then Bendy and the Ink Machine is whatever the opposite of that is. It's a ransom letter. It's a letter that you slide to the bank teller when you're about to rob the bank. It addresses the fact that there's something unsettling about that old style of animation, the way that the characters are always smiling in such an unsettling, forced way, and the way that they move in such an unnatural motion. It's heebie-jeebie, my dude. And instead of a lighthearted platformer with sacrilegious tones, Bendy and the Ink Machine is a full-on survival horror with a monotone sepia color palette and a sketchy art style. The story takes place in an animation studio run by the one and only Joey Drew, who I assume is like a Walt Disney in this universe. The only difference is Joey Drew is crazy. Although I've heard that Walt Disney wasn't exactly on his rocker either, but Joey Drew, usually referred to as Mr. Drew, was worshipping ink gods and creating a toxic environment for his employees. Unfortunately, animation ain't always sunshine and rainbows, is it? In the game, you play as a former animator for the studio who is also pals with Mr. Drew, and Mr. Drew sends him a letter like, "Hey yo, what's up man, you should come by the studio and I got something to show you." So it's like, alright, I'll come by the studio. The game's about him coming to the studio. You see all types of indications in the environment that it's an old-timey animation studio. You got storyboards on the walls, projectors, you got desks with stuff all over it that says like, yeah, this is a studio, alright. The first chapter is just you finding objects to sacrifice to the ink gods, I guess. And then you can turn on the ink machine, and then it brings to life hell on Earth. All these demonic cartoons come to life and try and kill you. If you thought that these things were creepy in 2D, oh geez, wait till you see them in 3D. Especially when they're all tied up and mutilated. And if I'm being honest, Boris is supposed to be on your side, but Jesus Christ, he freaks me out more than any of them. The game is episodic. We're currently on chapter 3 of 5 chapters that will eventually be released. So far, most of the enemies in the game are ink monsters that vaguely resemble human anatomy, deformed versions of the characters you might find on posters around the environment, or in some cases they are former employees who were trapped in the studio and then mutated by the ink. The music director was transformed into an ink man who has a cutout of Bendy's face over his. The projectionist has become an ink monster with a projector on his head. And the voice of Alice Angel, who is a bit too invested in her role, has taken on a sadistic rendition of her animated persona. This game and the story behind it has accumulated a cult-like following. It's earned the admiration of both fans of animation as well as figures in the industry. But I'm the one in the driver's seat of the conversation in this video. So what's my opinion on this game? Well, I appreciate the creepy take on the old-fashioned animation style because I myself have found it kind of creepy. But I feel some of the creepiness was lost in the process of adding in horror elements. You know, when I look at an old cartoon, for example, like an old Mickey Mouse cartoon, what I find creepy about it is the deep black and white contrast with the soulless eyes and the over-the-top smiles, and the happy tone just feels forced. And I feel like that's lost. There's nothing about the story or its presentation that leads you to believe that you are in anything but animation hell, which means a lot of the creepiness, for me at least, has been removed. Now, of course, when you look at the Bendy cartoons made inside the game, you can't look at them the same way, but I feel like there's a lack of deception, which creates a more honest type of horror. It takes away some of the fear of the unknown, some of the lack of trust. There's too much trust. There's too much honesty in this game, if you ask me. I mean, it seems as though characters were trying less to make this game a creepy game and do more to just pull back the curtain and say, you know, what if? That's kind of how it feels. I'm not going to knock them if that was their goal. You know, I'm just saying how I would have done it, but I'm not the one doing it. They're the one making the game, just like I'm the one talking in this video. You know, I'm saying that if I was making the game, I'd hold back on the scary stuff a little bit, and rather try and mimic the disingenuous smiles, the forced happiness, use the things that make me uncomfortable about the source material, rather than just try and make it horrific. You know, this is probably why Boris creeps me out the most, because Boris is supposed to be your ally, but he doesn't talk. He just moves around that creepy way. He doesn't speak. He just comes across as like this innocent, friendly figure, while you see all these mutilated copies of him around the environment, and it's unsettling. And also all these other ink monsters are trying to kill you, Like, what's so different about this one? You know what I mean? And as far as the villains go, there's so little mystery behind them. For example, Sammy Lawrence, he comes right out, he says what he's doing. This is my plan. I'm gonna leave you here for Bendy to attack you. That way, I can hopefully get my form back. Like, there's no unknown there. It's just like, this is what I'm gonna do. This is all the bad things that are gonna happen to you. And it's like, that takes away a lot of the suspense. Alice, on the other hand, was a bit more subtle, but still ineffective. She was trying to deceive you, but in a way where it's obvious that you're being deceived. And the fact that you go along with what she's doing isn't because you trust her, but rather because that's the only way to progress the story. It's either go along with her plan, or put down the game and just don't play it anymore. You know, she's saying, do these errands for me, do these favors for me, and I will take you back to the surface. And that's the goal of the entire game, and we're only on chapter 3 out of 5. Like, of course she's not gonna help us to the surface. Of course she's lying. Like, it's obvious. It's such a transparent plan. It's so obvious that she's lying to you. It's so obvious that she's gonna betray you. And guess what happens? She does. Like, there's no deception there. There's no false sense of trust. The betrayal wasn't really a betrayal. It was just like, I thought so. That's what I was guessing was gonna happen. In conclusion, I love the concept of this game. The execution, however, I don't necessarily agree with, but it's still an enjoyable game. It's still an enjoyable experience. I just, you know, I love tearing apart things I enjoy. That's just the type of person I am. And honestly, I'm looking forward to the next 2 chapters. And that's all I got to say about this game. That's my opinion. Disagree with it if you want. I'm not getting paid to have people agree with me. I'm not a politician. I'm a YouTube personality. You can disagree with me. It don't matter.